Thank you, Ronnie. I think that's our cue to open the audience participation section. Does anyone in the audience have a question? If you do, raise your hand. And Christian and I, we have mics.
Okay. My name is Ricky Whitaker. I'm a lifelong resident of McNairy County. I don't need that. I'm a lifelong resident of McNairy County. I guess one of my questions is going to be about jobs. I've been a Caterpillar in Corinth, Mississippi for 25 years. You know, I've always lived here, never wanted to move, anything like that. I'm sure I'm like a lot of people. I'd like to hear a couple of things from each candidate. If something does come up where we have a chance to get, say, a 1,000-person plant, a large plant like Caterpillar, what would be some of the things you do right off the bat? Just a couple of things to try to attract those companies.
I'll go first. To start with, people, county mayors, economic developers don't create jobs, industry creates jobs. You know, I have a 12-point plan of action that I plan to do in the first 100 days of office. And part of that includes a regular and recurring industry visitation program, because those industry CEOs are the best salesmen that we have. They can do more about getting other industries interested in this county than we can. I would practice matchmaking. You know, the state economic community development last year came up with a database that they would put all the information about each company in a region in particular together, and they would decide, okay, who do you buy from, who do you sell to, what is your product, and will your tier supplier want to come, can you still hear me? Want to come to McNairy County. A lot of people say, well, let's save our buildings for Toyota. But folks, there's a semicircle from Blue Springs to Memphis. It's called an empowerment zone. Everything probably is going to wind up, for the most part, unless you got a tier 3 supplier like Henderson got. But most of those industries are going to stay within that empowerment zone because, number one, it's called ease of transportation. Memphis has everything in the world to offer these Toyota. They're putting most of their suppliers right on site with them. So the opportunity of getting a tier supplier in McNairy County is not very good for a number of reasons. We would have to build probably a larger building. We've got 15 buildings empty in this county. 7 of those are in Adamsville, and 8 of them are in Selma, in the Selma area. We've got buildings with tall ceilings, Ricky. Tall ceilings. Exactly what site selectors want the most. People now want to manufacture, store, and ship out of the same building. So my problem over where I came from the last 5 years, I had 3 or 4 buildings, but they're all apparel buildings. They had low ceilings. I couldn't market them to anybody, unless it might be a call center. Second part of this thing. I'm 69 years old. I grew up, like some of you, when everybody had a farm, they had chickens to kill hogs. It was kind of the end of the agricultural age, and then we saw the industrial age come into being. But now we're in a high-tech information digital age, and we're teetering right between those 2 ages, and we got this thing called unemployment. I propose to you that if you take 9.4 unemployment rate in McNairy County, then you factor in those people that are off the rolls that have given up, but they're still unemployed. They don't count. Then the people that are underemployed, those people that are working beneath their skill sets. Then those people working outside the county. And finally, those people that are sitting on the porch because they want to sit on the porch, the real unemployment rate will scare you to death. So it's all flawed. So to answer your question about industry, here's what I propose. To create a thing called McNairy Tomorrow. I used to have Tennessee Tomorrow. It's defunct, so I can use it. But McNairy Tomorrow put together a task force of the right kinds of people in this county and let them go and be the main drivers in this county to get community input. Because listen, there's no I in team, right? So to get your input, get everybody on the same page, to use that term, and I like it, is that when everybody's thinking the same way, when all 10 incorporated areas are working together, we can get a lot of things done. That was a long answer for we don't have a great chance in McNairy County because we don't have the incentive packages. And we don't have a lot to offer. You know, it was said earlier, we've got a real drug problem. I had 3 industries tell me in tandem, I don't want state incentives, I don't want any local incentives, I don't want anything from you as an economic developer, but please bring me a drug-free workforce. And that's what they're looking for out there. Okay? Does that answer you, Ricky? Thank you.
I guess, Ricky, you're looking at me too, huh? I agree with Tom about our situation as far as our buildings and facilities, of actually landing a large company in McNairy County. That doesn't mean that we can't actively recruit industry, and the industry that can employ people in McNairy County. We have, at this point, McNairy County Regional Alliance, along with the Economic Development Board, that are working, doing that, are making these contacts and finding out where these industries are and trying to getting us prepared for it, getting the infrastructure in place so we can move forward and actively recruit. To me, it's extremely important that we consider the small businessmen. You know, we've got a plant in Henderson at this point right now that came in employing 25 people. Now they're up to a second shift. Those are the type of programs that we need to, or companies we need to be looking at that are there for expansion. That's going to bring about several jobs in the future. So, and we can come up with incentives that we can handle. When we're talking about major corporations, they're wanting large sums of money. They want a large package. In most cases, they want to walk in to a building fully equipped to their specifications and have as many breaks as they can. Okay, that's all well and good, and if we had the funds to do that. In a small rural community, it's going to be kind of difficult for us to come up with those incentives. However, we do know at some point that's what it's going to take for us to land a lot of industry. So, Ricky, I hope that's kind of got you in the right direction. I'm not by no means being negative, because we can land industry and we can get people back to work. It's just, it is going to take us a little bit of time. But I'm here for that, and I'd like to try it. Thank you.
My name is Melissa Smith. I'm from Stantonville. And while we've been listening, we've been hearing a lot of agreements between the candidates. What I wanted to ask has to do with an obvious area of disagreement, symbolized by the color of your signs, your name cards, and I had to note with some amusement the swapped tie colors. But my question is this: you have both identified yourselves with a political party. Those political parties define themselves, their goals, their ideals, their values by a platform. Why have you chosen the party that you have chosen to run as a candidate for? And how do your values and ideological approach to government line up with the party's platforms?
I grew up in the Democrat Party. My grandfather and my father were both Democrats, and that's what I heard in those households. And my granddaddy told me of it being the party of the people. My granddaddy talked a great deal about FDR. He told me, he said, son, he's the one who put people back to work. He got us Social Security. My granddaddy counseled me on what he thought politically was correct. I guess my granddaddy was a Dixiecrat, if that's the correct term. And he was extremely involved in my future in politics, and so was my father. I know things do change, but I'm still, my beliefs as my party is that I'm here to help. Regardless of any political affiliation, I feel like the person is supposed to help the people that he lives with. And that's what I mean by that is, I'm in this county every day, I see these people, I work with them, and my goal is to assist as much as I can. I think that is the values of the Democrat Party. I do feel physical responsibility. I'm not, in other words, I'm not what you would call a spendthrift. And I'm very conscious of our funds and how those monies and those tax dollars are spent. But I hope that answered my part of the question.
Well, okay, can you hear me? Am I still with you? Yeah. I'm a Republican. But let me tell you, I grew up as an old Southern Democrat. A lot of us were. But both parties has changed over time. Both parties has changed. I would like to see county mayors run like everybody else as independents. And you can run on your record alone, irregardless of partisan politics, because the county mayor is here for everybody in this county to increase their quality of life, to increase their income, and to increase the economic vitality in this county. Again, I'd like to see us just run as independents, Melissa. That way, but as it turns out, you have to have a party nomination. So you have to, if you were nominated by the Democratic Party, you're a Democrat. And if you're nominated by the Republican Party, you're a Republican. But I agree with Ronnie that it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. You've got to put politics aside. All of us have to put politics aside, not just the county mayor. If we're going to grow this county, and if we're going to have some quality. People keep saying we offer quality of life. No, quality of life means it's good for us who live here. Quality of place means it's good for those people who are coming in here with new dollars. So we've got to have quality of place. That's what we've got to offer in this county. And so to answer your question, Melissa, we have to declare a party currently, but I would love to see the time when we can run as independents.
Does anyone else have a question?
Nicky Atkins. I've been here 19 years. I'm the owner of Moody Auto Sales here in town. And the question I got for both of y'all is, for one, do y'all, should I say, do y'all support liquor by the drink? The reason I asked that question is for the county-wide. We talk about jobs. I'm originally from Savannah, and I've been there. I've talked to a lot, and actually I've seen a lot. And I know a lot of people don't agree, but me personally, I feel like if a person's gonna do anything, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do what they want to do. But yet, still, as we always know, we know that money's got to come in from businesses. So there's a lot of food chains. We have a lot of Ruby Tuesdays and everything like that. So the question opposed I asked y'all, what do y'all think about that? I mean, if that was ever addressed on both of y'all.
Nikki, of course, that issue would be in the form of a referendum. I mean, that's something that would have to probably go before, the entire community. It would have to be someone to go out and present that to the community and let them consider it and vote for it. That has probably not really a county decision other than it being on a referendum whether or not to have liquor by the drink. Did that kind of answer your question?
I support that as well. That's exactly right, and that's a good question. But yeah, I think Manny gave me the correct answer on that. Okay. Is that good enough for you, sir? Will that work?
That's fine enough with me.
Thank you.
I had a question. I guess you got to defer to the guy running the sound in the back. This is sort of a statement and a question. My name is Russell Engel. I do work with McNairy Regional Alliance on the Chamber of Commerce side of our operation. There is an emerging asset in McNairy County. It flies under the radar for the most part, and I can understand why there would be a certain amount of apathy to it because it's just something that's never been there, something that's never been addressed, and that would be as it relates to tourism. Now, you have Arts in McNairy, who promotes cultural arts, performing arts, our history, all of those things, and Coon Creek has been mentioned. There's a number of festivals that has emerged in our county that draw thousands of people into our area. I guess my statement would be, and I'm not meaning it directed at you two, but across the board, I want to know, as mayors, what value do you see in both of the promotion of our cultural arts, our historical heritage, tourism in general? Because in the past, what I mainly see from political candidates is it's just a great opportunity to campaign because there's a lot of people gathered in one spot at one time. This could be a jewel for McNairy County if we get the proper leadership behind it. So what would you guys do to help foster that?
I'll start, Russell. To start with, I got involved in tourism in Florida in 1978. I'm a certified Florida tourism professional. I'm a certified Tennessee tourism professional. I am very pro tourism because it's the cleanest industry that we have. They come, they spend their money, they go home. We don't have to build them anything. We don't have to, normally they don't occupy our jails and maybe not our hospital. And if we can keep them overnight, the dollars triple. You'll probably be surprised to learn that the latest figures from the University of Tennessee Hotel, Motel, and Tourism Division, Dr. Morse, M-O-R-S-E, that in McNairy County in 2010, the latest data we have, $7.99 million were spent on tourism in McNairy County, and we didn't even try. So tourism, I have a plaque that I've had for years. I had it at Chamber, I had it in Waynesboro, I've got it on my wall at home. That says tourism never outsources. It's the cleanest industry that we have. It's a great dollar maker, and the more tourism dollars you have, the less taxes you're going to have to pay. We've got a number of great festivals in this town. We've got area, and Ronnie hit on Shallow, But you know, Shiloh, if they come through this county, or if they come to the Puster Festival, or the Broomcorn Festival, or if they come to an Arts in McNairy function in this building, or wherever it is, you know, they're all tourism dollars. If a man comes out of Alcorn County and buys a hamburger and a Coca-Cola, that's tourism dollars. And they've got it. They have a formula that they can pretty much be right on how many dollars come into this thing. It was a $9 billion money. It was $9 million in 2010 to the state of Tennessee. We're second in the United States on tourism development. We have a great Tennessee Department of Tourist Development. They're working now in tandem with the Tennessee Economic and Community Development Department, and also with the Department of Agriculture. They're all starting to collaborate. They're all starting to realize, hey, we're all doing the right things, but we weren't on the same page, so now let's get it all together. So yes, tourism. People don't understand tourism for two reasons. Number one, it's not bricks and mortar. You can't wrap your arms around it. So a lot of people don't understand it. But it's a great economic driver for McNairy County. Thank you.
Russell, I agree. We have some great activities in McNairy County. We have a really deep, rich history here. And me being I am an arts person. I am on the Arts and McNairy board. And being a musician, we don't realize what we do have here. You know, it's just not just the Rockabilly Festival. It's part of our heritage. The Broomcorn Festival, that's part of our heritage. There's the New Hog Festival. I mean, this is something these things have to have promotion. And as a mayor, I feel like we need to investigate every possibility to promote those events and be actively involved. I'm for if there's I do know that there's state agencies that we can approach, that we can get the kind of promotion that we need to be able to get those out to more than just McNairy County and just in our immediate area. So it's infinite at the amount of things that we can actually accomplish with just these things that are sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. And of course, we do know that people, as Tom said, you know, millions of tax dollars are spent, or tourism dollars are spent right here in McNairy County. So it is an industry. We don't realize that, but it is. And I feel like every effort needs to be made to do the promotions that we need to get it out there.
Both of you have expressed concern about the unemployment rate. My name is Jim Plant, for those of you that don't know me. According to the St. Louis Federal Reserve figures, the population growth rate in McNairy County is 0.5% a year, and that amounts to about 3 families or something like that. If I could show you a way that you could add 150 jobs to the economy of McNairy County for an expenditure of $150,000, would you consider it worth it?
Absolutely.
Coon Creek.
Well.
Okay, you've been offered that property for $300,000.
We have, and I know that, yeah, Jim, and I know you did the appraisal. And, yeah, let's go back to what I said 15 minutes ago. It's a wonderful, wonderful facility. It's a godsend for us. But I think the problem, and I'll say again, in the county commission, I think we both said this, that it wasn't communicated correctly. It's a good word from Ronnie. It wasn't communicated correctly to the county commission. And so they said, we better back off. Number one, we're in really tight times, first of all. And we probably need to wait to the next grant cycle in 2 years and try this again.
Well, I understand that, Tom, and I don't say that the county commission acted improperly on the information that they had. But over the next 2 years, we need to give this strong consideration. You're gonna bring in probably, let's say only 50 jobs, economic-based jobs. Well, that'll generate another 75 to 100 support jobs to support those 50 jobs. Property values in the northeast part of the county will start rising because there'll be demand for property near the employment. That's gonna reduce some of the real estate inventory. That'll put upward pressure on all real estate prices. So when you put this.
Let's try that one more time.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We need to address this thing because it just goes from one to the other. I worked death row. We interviewed a lot of inmates that were there for life. In Colorado, in Florida, life is 20 calendar years. In Colorado, life is 48 continuous years. So the majority of them says, what brought you to prison? What brought you to jail? Most of them say, I don't know, drugs, I guess. I was high.
Area, unfortunately, that happens. I mean, there's a lot of it that you can't control. Obviously, the education is there. You know, the DARE program through the schools, they're trying to educate the kids about the disasters that they can get into by getting into drugs. However, we know that sometimes that's not going to take, but we have to continue that effort to educate our children in the schools. I do know that Sheriff Buck's got officers that are very diligent about going into the schools and teaching these classes. He's there. I think we can continue to just step that up as far as our drug education. And of course, that goes with funding. Usually, you know, it's going to cost some money at some point to do some drug education. But we do have making a large dent in the drug situation in our county, and it is getting better, and it is for the direct efforts of Sheriff Buck and our local municipal departments that are making this effort to get that done. But yeah, that's just a continued education, Ray, is the only thing. And when they get into the court system, you know, they are through the probation office, they have the opportunities to, well, not the opportunities, most of the time it's forced upon them, in some cases to get help. And so the system does work. It's just going to take a while.
When I follow up a little bit, I'm going to support what you said. I have the opportunity I have been working with the prospect for a faith-based prison. They haven't decided where they want to go yet. Maybe McNairy County, who knows? It depends. But this prison, let me tell you, the recidivism rate in America is 70%. And their children are 70% apt to go to prison as well. It's just a revolving door. This faith-based prison will only hire Christians for corrections officers. They take the inmate that is within 30 to 24 months of completing their sentence. Their jacket has to fit. They have to volunteer for this program. There are no trustees. They're restricted to this place. And if they're drug abusers, then they work with them on that issue. If they're burglars, they work with them on that issue. They also go out and they work with the families of these people because they're going to be out. They're going to be out within 24, 30 months, back out in the population. So what they're doing is they'll go out because this family has been codependent on this inmate for 20 years, theoretically. So they're going to reprogram that family and get them in line so that when the inmate comes out, then he's got family, he's got support. Because most of them, listen, you know, I worked in that business a long time, and most of them Burglars get better in jail. Hey, car thieves get better in jail. They have classes. Let me tell you a better way to steal a car. Let me tell you a better way to burgle a house. So with this faith-based prison, the recidivism rate is down to 30%. There's industry in the back of this prison, and you cannot recruit any industry within a 30-mile radius of where the facility is. So you don't compete with your local industry or local business. In the back of this building is industry. They have to work. They have to pay them at least minimum wage. Everybody works. If there's victims, some of that money has to go to victim advocate. If they're dependent children, some of that money has to go to child support. And you know, if mom and daddy has bailed you out for 20 years, then you get to pay some of them back. But then you've got to save some. So when he gets out of prison, he's got a little bit of a nest egg. He's got the rehabilitation done, and he's less apt to go back to prison because of the type of facility it is. They just built the first one in Waukita, Oklahoma, out in the middle of nowhere. But they built a quad. They built 4 of these things on a group. And one of those things only holds 1,500 inmates. And they'll have 800 corrections officers. It's almost 201. 2 to 1. So, you know, this is going to be a great project. I'm hoping maybe we bring that here. I've got all the plans and all the contact, and they're still working on it. It's going to take a little bit of legislation, of course, but I think we can get around that hurdle.
Had the advantage of good education, you know, just looking at your qualifications. And I hate to get you off of prisons and back on the education, but let me ask you one more question about education. With our state government not only just indifferent to education, but openly hostile to education and educators, what could either of you gentlemen do to reverse the trend of our state representatives and state senators who forgot they went to school for some reason or other? And what can you do about this situation? Thank you.
Put the right people in the right places, Albert. I'm talking about legislators. So, you know, legislators have to have, that's the ones who make the laws. You know, we can promote it as much as we want to in our own communities, but ultimately it's up to the voters to realize that that is an issue and be concerned enough that they do make an effort to make those changes that are needed.
Okay, now we're going to move to the final phase of the debate. We're going to allow 5-minute closing statements, and Tom will start.
I'll start. Hey, listen, the great Alabama football coach Bear Bryant said one time, have a plan, stick to the plan, and you're going to be surprised at how much you can get accomplished. You know, most people don't have a plan. That's the reason they're so easy to beat. You know, I've created a 12-point plan of action that I propose my first 100 days in office. I also have a 10-point jobs plan that was published in the Independent Appeal this week, I guess yesterday. You know, I've had the unique opportunity to view McNairy County from a number of perspectives. I worked at GE Selmer for 10 years. I got vested at 60 and retired. But I understand the challenges that face local industry, workforce development, and retaining a skilled workforce. I was executive director of the McNairy County Chamber of Commerce, so I understand community development. And I understand the challenges that face this county. I owned and operated Raymer Station Restaurant. So I understand small business development, and I understand the entrepreneurial spirit. For the past 5 years, I've traveled each day to Wayne County as the Executive Director of Economic Community Development. So I understand how to recruit new jobs. I understand that it centers on retention and expansion of business and industry. Now, our next county mayor is going to have some real tough issues and needs to be able to hit the ground running. You know, I don't have a personal agenda. I'm too old. But just to do what I can to help grow this county, to establish some economic vitality. I've got all the skill sets and I've got the contacts that I've gained over the last 8 years that can give this county the boost that it needs. Now, I told you earlier, I've worked with a couple of prospects that said, if you get to be county mayor, we want to talk to you. To me, that means they want to do business in this county. Now, we didn't get in the shape we're in 2 years. In fact, we can't get out of it in 2 years. But all I'm asking you is to elect me to a 2-year term. And if you don't see some growth for the better, if you don't see some movement and some progress, hey, don't re-elect me in 2014. Anyway, I would appreciate your confidence, your consideration, and your vote. Tomorrow, early voting begins. I want to encourage each of you to get out and vote. You know, we have approximately 14,000 registered voters in this county. Less than half of them voted in the 2010 election. As a matter of fact, 6,022 people. It's a shame that some people are not interested in what happens in their county, in their country, and what happens in their nation. And all this starts, to make a better county, it all starts with exercising your right to vote. I want to thank again the Independent Appeal for hosting this, and Jed for moderating this debate tonight. I want to thank the McNairy Regional Alliance, the Chamber, of course, for letting us use this beautiful facility. And I want to thank all of you, concerned citizens of McNairy County. Thank you very much.
And as I said earlier, as being a lifelong resident of McNairy County, I chose to be here. I love where I live. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I love the people and the opportunities that McNairy County has given me. My decision in running for this office unfortunately came in the midst of a term. I've been thinking about this for approximately 5 years. And unfortunately, the way it fell, it was fell in the middle of an election and term. But I felt like it was so important that I act on what I felt strongly about that I said, this is the time. And after a lot of prayer and consideration, that answer came to me. And in a life of service, and that's what I've done as a school teacher, it's the same thing. I've watched my parents build a business based on a good product for your money, and the customer always comes first. Well, that's the way I feel about the people of McNairy County. You know, you're going to hire who you want to be in this position, and we work for you. I will work for you. I will give you all my efforts will be to do whatever I can to recruit industry into McNairy County and do anything that I can to better the lives of the people that live here. And I would appreciate that opportunity and your consideration in the election in August the 2nd. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Independent Appeal, I'd like to thank the McNairy Regional Alliance. I'd like to thank our candidates and our publisher, Janet Rail, our managing editor, Christian Coulon, and most of all of you. So go out and vote. Thank you. Good night.
If you want to say something, want me to shut up and let you talk?
this is a snowball effect with a lot of hidden benefits is what I'm going into. And both of you, whichever one of you wins the election, need to be putting your best foot forward to get that into our possession because of the big pool of grant money that's available once we do own it.
I agree, Jim. And, you know, I don't think anybody here disagrees that it's a wonderful facility, that it was saying that the price was good. But again, let me iterate again that this past budget year, we just barely squeaked by. You know, and there were some other issues that there would have been a lot of public outcry, I think, if we would go ahead and at that point in time and done that. What do you think?
I agree, Tom. We do, and Jim, we do need to make every effort we can. You know, and it would employ several people, because when you talk about ground maintenance people, all the entities that would be involved to keep that up and going. I understand exactly what you mean, and that is something we will have to consider, and it will come up again. But I think every effort needs to be made to what we can do to make that process. Good. Thank you.
Just hang on. Well, you were talking about all the tourist stuff we come to McNairy County. People sits here, outside here. What about Ray Blanton Day? Would y'all promise one of y'all will try to see him too? You remember Ray Blanton, don't you? Yeah. McNairy County's got every other kind but Ray Blanton. Thank you.
Bobby, do you want to answer? I didn't quite understand the question.
That we need somebody.
Yeah, I need to answer.
No. Let's try that again.
I haven't got the time.
We can hear you. Yes.
Well, excuse me, I'm James Richard. I've recently moved here to McNairy County from Texas in 2007. I've been outside the circle, so I got a lot of family folks up here and things on that order. What I'm hearing about this county, and I've come from a county that got into economic trouble, you say that, Tom, and the way I understand it, you kind of control it right now, what's going on with the county mayor job, is that correct? And let me go on. I'm hearing that this county's in trouble, that you barely made the budget this year. Do you see, and do you see, and is it, that we probably are going to see a tax increase in this county in the near future?
I can't say that. It depends on a lot of factors. You know, part of our responsibility, every citizen in here, including the county mayor, has got the responsibility to be a great steward for the taxpayers' money. So I plan to be as conservative as I can possibly be. That doesn't mean I won't spend some money if I get the best return on investment for the county, for the taxpayers. But let me back up here a minute. You know, I told you earlier in my initial address that I did economic development in Northern County. There were 4 incorporated areas in Wayne County, Tennessee, 2 counties east of here. The largest rural county in Tennessee, only second in size to Shelby County, but Shelby County is the metro, so it's the largest rural county in Tennessee. There were 4 towns. The smallest town was bordered on Lawrence, the next county east, and Wayne County, but the city offices were in Wayne County. They gave up their charter 2 years ago because they could no longer provide services. We have 10 incorporated areas here in McNairy County, all with mayors, aldermen, or commissioners. You know, I can see, I won't go there, but I can see maybe a probability if things don't change, that some of those smaller, incorporated areas might have to go the same way. But, and I don't like to say that, but the truth is the truth. And, yeah, we're not the only, hey, listen, we're not the only county in America that's having real budget problems. We're having budget problems all over this United States. You know, we just learned about the city in California in the news yesterday. It's, that they can't pay their city employees. They don't have the money. So you've got to find ways to create. You've got to find ways to create a tax base. And if you, let me tell you, I went to Wayne County July 1st, 2007. I haven't been over there very long, and I watched 1,000 jobs leave this county. 1,000 jobs. And I can tell you who they were. Summer Apparel lost 400. Reiner Schiffnacher lost 400. When I retired at GE, Summer, there were 440. They were down to 85 recently. They're just barely over 100. Aquaglass in Adamsville had 1,100 people. I was there today is Thursday? 3 weeks ago today with workforce investment because I was still employed by Wayne County. The jail code process from Aquaglass went either to Praxis in Savannah or American Whirlpool in Clifton, and of course I was in Clifton. So I watched 109 people walk out of that building that day. It broke my heart. They have 85 employees left at Aquaglass right now in Evansville. 5 years ago there were 1,100. I think I'm right. I'm not right. Something like that, 1,100. A little over 1,000. So, you know, you've got to, if you don't find ways to create a tax base, we're all going to be suffering. We're all in this thing together. We got to think about regionalism. I think this McNairy Regional Alliance is the right answer. You know, you've got to collaborate with other counties around you, other elected officials around you. The day is over when you can operate just by yourself. Because if you don't think about a regional collaboration, we're all going to starve to death. Okay? I don't know if that answers your question.
You come close.
Come pretty close. Thank you.
Obviously, no one wants a tax increase. You know, it's the last thing, especially anybody that's the chairman of chief of a county. I don't want that to happen. But as Tom just said, there are things in the future that we may not foresee, and it may require it. But every effort will be made to keep our budget balanced and not be a burden on the taxpayers. So I hope that answered your question. Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question?
Hey, I tell you what, you got two guys this good in McNairy County wanting to help us. Nothing can be impossible. These are great guys. Give them another hand. These guys. I've got hope with these two guys on our side. It can't be bad. Me and Pat on Pat's Cafe over here, we have people come in this town from everywhere in the world. I'm telling you, around the world, literally, we do. They get here some way. We had some folks from Amsterdam. They flew into Washington, D.C., went to South Florida. They wanted to see South Florida. Back to Nashville, wanted to see the Country Music Hall of Fame. Then down to Jackson to the Rockabilly Hall of Fame. On down to Elvis Presley Mansion, Memphis. Come back through I think maybe the Ames Plantation, and wound up in Selmer to see the Muriels. and eating fast cafe from Amsterdam, sure did. So we get them from everywhere. All we need to do, and listen, we need to treat these people like they're family when they come into town. We need to make it the best place they've ever visited. When they leave Selma, they need to think it's the greatest place they've ever seen, because it is. I'm telling you, I'm right across from courthouse, flag flying high in the sky, flags all over the place. Old lady still crossing the street. Rexall drugstore still down on the corner where I seen my first Playboy magazine. It was a great day, I'm telling you. We got good things to come. Thank y'all. I want to work to thank both you guys.
What's Playboy?
Hope you know. Hey, let's just treat them real good. You know, everybody has to work together, and if they come into town, let's give them a good time. Treat them like folks. They are, you know, they like it.
So let me respond to this for a second. That's why community development is so important in this county. Because if you don't have community development, you cannot have economic development. And if you don't understand customer service, you know, when a person comes into this county, who's the first person they talk to? The clerk at McDonald's or the proprietor down the street. What is there to do here? Man, nothing to do here. Well, you know what the answer is? We've traveled all over this country, and I'll tell you, I've gone to places and asked hotels, what is there to do? We're going to be here 3 days. Oh, they ain't here yet. So you've got to be able, you know, you got to communicate to the citizens that customer service is probably the most important thing that we can do to keep people coming into this county. A good example, and I'll try to, I never been brief, but I'll try to be a little shorter. A good example is that about 7 or 8 years ago, I guess, an industry flew in, they called and said, look, this is proprietary to us, this is confidential, I don't want anybody to know who we are, but we're coming in to look at one of your buildings, okay? Picked them up out here at Robert Sibley Airport. The first thing I saw was a logo on the airplane. The next thing I saw was a logo on their jackets. And the next thing I heard was, what is so-and-so doing here anyway? What do they want? So, you know, proprietary information goes both ways. It's hard to practice confidentiality if your prospect doesn't follow through. That didn't have anything to do with anything, did it?
I got
Yes,
one
sir.
question. Of course, being from Texas and the Gulf Coast, we know a hurricane's coming, we got 3 days. I was so astonished when the tornadoes come through this area a couple years ago, and what destruction they had. I live on Moore Schoolhouse Road. The only thing that I knew that it was coming is my aunt called me and said, get in the bathtub. Is there any thoughts, if y'all have, whoever gets this job, in getting more safety factor out there for the county, sirens, the cell phone system? They say, don't use AT&T because AT&T don't work. It don't work out there.
Can I start? Homeland Security gave us a good $750,000 grant. That money's going to go for sirens at the 11 fire stations in this county. There's another $1 million grant, and that's going to be used for some 911 equipment, a couple of fire trucks, and we're hoping that part of that can be dedicated to places like Purdy, that was devastated a year ago, the tornado. That they don't have a fire station, so they're not in the loop to get a siren. We're hoping that second round of grants will allow us to at least put one out there at their community center. You know, I've already got power. You've got some that a tornado spotter has to activate, and you've got some that the 911 center has to activate. So yes, they're in the middle, because we understand that, you know, this tornado alley has moved over the years. And we get our share here. We've had a lot of devastating weather here.
I agree with Mr. Colley, because we do, I did know that we will have some aid to your area at some point.
One more question, and I'll being from Texas, got big mouth, but on these places where you're going to put the siren, wherever you might, is it a geographical look into this thing? Let's don't put it at a fire station that's in a hole. Let's put it up in a high place that it makes noise. You know, I understand that, you know, you say at the fire stations, but there are some fire stations that set real low, and just 64, the water tower, if you had one near that water tower, you'd like Hornsby up. They would hear.
Yes, to answer your question, I'm sure when these are available, you know, proper mapping, that's what the emergency management office does, and with proper management, I'm sure that they'll place them where they need to be placed.
I've got the microphone, so I'll ask my question now. This is a bridge between education and arts in the county. My name is Logan Brasher. I've lived here my whole life. I'm heavily involved with Arts in McNairy in the theater program. I was in band in high school. Well, my question for both of you, Mr. Brooks, this might be a whole lot easier for you, is will you as mayor support arts education in our school system? Arts education is dying across the country. McNairy County is on the verge of it. Will you as mayor support it, and if so, how would you do it?
Excellent question. Of course, my obvious answer is going to be yes. Being a music educator and involved in the arts. There will always be, unfortunately, you know, that's you hear this across the country, and I think everybody in this room has heard this at one time or another. Well, we're going to have to cut this. We're going to have to cut, even down to where they cut athletic programs. But the first one on the block normally is an arts program or a music program, and if I'm elected mayor, we will make sure that whatever efforts that we need to take through the school board, we will make sure that will not happen, because that is an important asset for many students in school. Some of them, they're not athletic, that's not their direction. This is the direction that their interest lies, and this will give them their outlet, and we don't need to take that away from them. I will always be an advocate for arts and music.
You know, we should have traded ties. There's something wrong. I guess we're more on the same page than I thought we were. Arts at McNairy. I was in, Dr. Sean Pitts and I think when this was a dream of his, I was the chamber director in this county, and we worked very closely together to create AIM. He spent numerous hours in his own money to get this thing off the ground, and I want to commend him for that. I don't know if it's Dr. Sean Pitts in here. He is. You know, and I'll say this, when I went to another county from here, the first thing I did was find out we didn't have any artists. So my wife and I set about cataloging all the available artists, all the performing artists, and all the still artists, and we put them all together. We came up, and people would recommend somebody else. All of a sudden, we had just a huge group, and we called that artists, artisans in Wayne County. And we were able, and Dr. Pitts came over on his own time and helped us put that thing together. So I'm gonna tell you that Dr. Sean Pitts has done more to promote arts in this county than any one person that I know. Thank you.
I have a question for you guys. I'm Janet Rell from the Independent Appeal, but many of you know one of my passions is adult literacy. And, I think it was Tom Colley saying earlier that industries wanted a drug-free workforce. I think they also want an educated workforce. And one of our concerns, we're trying to raise a lot of money for adult education, working with Patsy Pearson and her group. But I had no idea that 31.5% of our adults, and they're aged 25 to 64, do not have a high school education. So any industry or business that looks at McNairy County is certainly going to look at our vital statistics. That's a challenge for all of us and a concern for me as well as you. But if you were elected mayor, my question is, do you have any idea of how we could tackle this and what we could do to develop an educated workforce? Because any business is going to want that, and that really assures vitality for this community.
I'll start again. We have a wonderful resource called UT Martin McNairy. We have a great school system. But we have a problem, like you said, it's adult literacy and the lack of. Back, a few years ago, we kicked off in this county Books from Birth. And hey, it was a great project. Now it's really taken off good. But in the beginning, we did pretty well with it. But we found out something. These kids from birth to 6 years old were getting these books and taking them home. Mom and Dad couldn't read to them. A lot of them couldn't read to them. I've been out on the campaign trail just like Ronnie has. I'm sunburned just like he is. But I'll tell you this, I've been to a great number of houses in this county, and as late as yesterday, and they were absolutely poor, pitiful. We've got some poverty, we've got diabetes problems, we've got health issues, we've got a number of issues that need to be addressed. But you can't talk about economic development and workforce development unless you talk about education. And I said that earlier, and you're exactly right. We've got to, there's a lost generation out there that they're never gonna, if these people who just graduated from high school make about 3 times less than a college graduate. So, but here's what's happened in the past, guys. Every one of us grew up just about in industry. Brown Shoe, Martin Manufacturing, Levi, Aqua Glass, GE. And that generation, we were able to operate then without a formal education. Hey, it built a lot of houses, it fed a lot of people, it sent a lot of kids to school. But we're in a different age now. And now we're in that innovative digital information age that I talked about. And the workforce of tomorrow, we don't even know what the workforce of tomorrow is going to be. These kids that are in high school right today or freshmen in college, we don't even know what the skill sets are going to be when they get in the job market, what they're going to have to know about. We know it's going to have to be math and science. We know that's the big thrust. I don't know if I answered it, but my answer is yes. Adult literacy, I want to be part of the process.
Janice, that is the GED program is my biggest concern at this point, because it's to a point where it's going to be almost impossible for someone who wants to get a GED. That we've got our selfish government that is pushing that out of the way. It's where now if they can barely afford it. What I'm meaning is those of you that may not understand, because it costs money for someone to acquire their GED. Right now it's $55. It's fixing to jump to almost $210. Now how many people do you know that do not have a high school education probably do not have the funds to do that, and here we are again. So you're pushing these people, you're penalizing those people. We do know that they're working very diligently with the state legislature to try to come up with an alternative program where this testing can be administered, an approved test that can be administered through our local agencies that will be equivalent to the GED test. It's privatized, basically what's happening. The GED program is fixing to be privatized, which is a tragedy, you know. And I'm in full support of whatever we need to do to secure our GED program, give them the support that they need. Patsy Pearson does a tremendous job. She had 58 graduates at the GED graduation. 2 of them that gave their address, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Where they came from, what they had to go through to get to that point. It was just absolutely amazing. College bound, one of them was already headed to UT Martin, and that again is where part of our asset, because a lot of those graduates are going to go from the GED program right to UT Martin here in town. So we really need to everybody get on board with trying to encourage them. I'm saying they go into the schools. We're trying, I know through the jails, I know sounds awful, but this is through our jail system. You know why they're there. They don't have a proper education, so where do they go? To crime. So part of their judgment when they go to court can be you must acquire your GED with a certain amount of time. So these programs, and we can thank our judicial system for that, and our sheriff's department. But we need more of those things to encourage kids to get out, and it's a tragedy. As Tom said, I've gone to many homes that they'll just, well, I appreciate you coming by, but I can't read, I can't write. And it is shocking. You don't think about that in this day and time, that there's actually people who cannot read or write. So I hope that answers your question, Jenny.
Let me add something to that real briefly. I've been running adult leadership classes now for, I don't know, 8, 9 years, something like that. The class before last in Wayne County, their project was, they got out and they collected money, and they raised money, they went to the banks, they got out, they actually did roadblocks, and they raised enough money to pay the GED testing fee for 36 individuals in that county. And they took them on an at-need basis. Some of them that could afford it, they didn't give it to them. So they impacted quite a few lives in that county just by the sake of that. Community got involved, the adult leadership class got involved as a project. It's probably one of the finest projects that I saw over there.
We've talked about education and taxes and a little bit of everything else, arts and so forth. The one thing that's really hindering our county and our job creation is a drug-free workforce. You touched on that. Will you see whichever one gets elected, and I admire both of you for running. I've been there, done that, and it's a lot of fun. Heartbreaking also, but admire you for running, and I think the county's in good shape with what. But would you talk about what we can do to help the sheriff, help the law enforcement in the county get rid of the drugs?
Well, part of my plan of action is to work really closely with the sheriff, to work with the local law enforcement people, and try to address some of these problems, address that problem.